All right, guys, I just got in a little packet from Canada from someone that a lot of you might know of, Den Brass. In the lockpicking community, he's pretty big name up there. Anyway, he sent me some really weird stuff here. Thought I'd give you a look at it, and then we could see if maybe one of them was going to be pickable. The first one is, you guys have seen La Perche, and I think a lot of the La Perche, the perch, very famous French brand, a lot of them have been fake, the ones that you can rake open or literally shake and they pop open. This one seems to be a little different. First of all, when I look at this key, very heavy key in itself, but this is not like any La Perche I have ever seen before. So it looks like, I'm hoping that these are passive pins in the side, and perhaps passive. The passive means you don't have to pick them. It just means that they're more for key control, to keep somebody from using an unlicensed key. Anyway, it does look like it is 7 pins or more. So we definitely have some challenge here. This may not be a good first choice, but anyway, cool lock, cool looking key. Again, looking at the keys, I've seen a lot of fake bricards, particularly when I travel to different countries in Africa. This one's not like any of the bricards that I have found there. Again, this is a machined key, very heavy duty, very neat looking. Rotates very smoothly, and it's a little hard to get out because this has to be inserted a very specific way. Take a look at this, and it looks like there's different numbers of pins on each side. You have one guide side right there, and then 3 fairly active sides, I think. So this could be not quite like as easy as some of the other cross locks, but very cool lock, very smooth, but you got a lot of pins to deal with. This next one is something I have never seen before, and I've never heard of this brand, a VAC brand. Now this one's kind of different. It takes a little effort to get it out of there, but take a look at this key. It almost looks like disc detainer cuts, but in the tip of that key, and also in the side of it, there's a little cut there and also on the top. And when I look inside of the keyway, there's a little slider that has to pop in there just right. Now this, in addition to having all of that weirdness, see if I can get this thing in there right. I think maybe it goes this way. You have to push with a tremendous amount of pressure to get past a spring. Then you can rotate it, and it turns the actuator on the back, obviously. I don't know what this goes to. And then flips all the way around, and then it'll click in place when you get it to the unlock position. And then you can pop your key out, or give it a good tug, comes right out there. Very cool looking. I don't even know how to begin to pick this thing, but I'm going to have to spend some time trying to figure that out. I'm not even going to bother. The last one is something that I haven't done challenge locks for quite a while. Den Brass has sent in several challenge locks over the last several years. In fact, he's whipped me a couple of times. And this, it has every marking of a challenge lock. It's got the tag on it. It's got the number on it. And it's a fairly common brand, Assa Abloy, Corbin Russwin. And I believe, based on this key, this is a challenge lock. So because he went to the trouble to build this and send these all into me, I'm going to make an exception to the end of challenge lock days and just give this one. I mean, when I see bidding like this, it calls out to me, try me, try me. So I'm going to give this a shot. I can tell you for sure this is more than 4 pins, which is what he's kind of leading us to believe with that awesome cutting. And then if you look down inside of there, I think you can see there's a ball bearing at least on that first pin. Now, that's not uncommon for locks that have a lot of wear, like industrial use, apartments, commercial buildings and such. That prevents a lot of wear to the key pins. But it also makes it a little harder to pick because those ball bearings are a little slippery and they're hard to get your picks on. So let's go ahead and clamp this up. And out of respect, let's see if he gets a third whipped video. All right, clamped up very nice and tight in there. The key works beautifully. It indexes at 12 o'clock. Maybe there's a ball bearing in there to hold it, to keep it centered. But anyway, it works equally well in both directions. There's what your key looks like again. And I'm going to try to use this little guy. This is the PN, see if I can read this again, PN02 from Multipick. And it's 25 thousandths. And this keyway, if there's anything working in my favor, it's that this keyway will allow me to put a wider pick in there so I can really put some pressure on the pins if I have to. Let me try to count here real quick. I'm counting 6. Unless there's a 7th back there with a super weak spring, There's also a very strong, or a pin that's stronger, right around position number 3, but it's not a super spring. If this is a super spring, I wouldn't try it. I've simply broken too many picks on those. But anyway, they all seem to work, and I think there are 6 of them. I can't tell if anything past position 1 has a ball bearing just by doing this. We'll know in a minute. All right, let's try to tension this guy, and I'm going to show you a technique that I use. Now, I know what the bitting looks like, but I would use this technique on any challenge lock because all challenge locks have one bitting extreme. And when you have that, sometimes you can use a rake, and this is the, see if I can get the number right on this guy. This is the Elite BOGO 4, a BOG 04 from Multipick. I like it because it's a little bit longer. I can touch an extra pin, basically. So what I usually do is slide it in and use very light tension, and then I'll rock it up and down. And this is the same technique I use on best locks. Sometimes you can get a fault set doing this. And once you get a fault set, then from that point on, the pins will speak your language. In other words, they'll tell you what they need. So, and this one's not acting like he wants to do it. So I might be just out of luck here. Do a little rake in. Okay, now I'm just going to bounce up and down a little bit. Keep light tension the whole time. You have to keep some tension, but not super heavy. Okay, nothing. So then, oh, wait a minute. I felt a very slight turn there. Let me do some more raking. And there we go. We got a good fault set going now. And I think once you get a fault set, you're probably hung up on a security pin. So it turned just a little bit. And that's a good starting point. And so now I'm going to pull this little guy out. And let's see if we can't figure out what else we need to do here. I'm going to apply moderate tension on the tension wrench. And I'm going to move from pin to pin, trying to see if it gives me any kind of counter rotation, because that's what I suspect. We're caught up on the narrow element of one of these pins. We just need to find out which one. Looking for feedback from anybody? Anybody? There he is right there. Pin 6, a little bit of counter rotation. So now when you're caught up on a narrow element, I'm not saying we raked them in the right order. So when I pick this last one, I have to release the tension on the tensioner to push him past the shear line. You may hear other pins drop. Don't worry about it. It's all part of the game. Okay, got him. And we still have our fault set. So there's probably another security pin in there somewhere. Oh, I just touched pin 3. Got a very slight click. So he probably has some kind of serrated element to him. We still have our fault set though. Looking for counter rotation, because we still have that deep fault set. Where are you? There he is. Okay, pin 3, the one that just clicked. So I'm going to give him a little nudge. Again, expect pins to drop. Or not. Okay, we have an open. Let's go ahead and pull him out. I'm not zoomed at all. And you can see the tailpiece got caught. So when I turn the tailpiece, you can see he's open. All right, we do have a key for this guy. So let me go ahead and lock him back up. Put him right here. And let's see what Dennis has done to us. He's really come up with some tricky stuff over the years, and I'm just curious. I for once, had a little bit of foresight to lay things out and get them ready. And I just hope I chose the right screwdriver. Yep. Probably not the best place to drop that screw, since I'm just going to have to move him in a second when I pick the core and pull him out. I gotta lay him down somewhere. All right, that looks like the right follower even. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this guy and turn him to 90 degrees to get the pins right here. And yep, he is the right size. All right, let's see what we got here. Dennis, what have you done to us? Ah, look at that. That looks like a pin and pin in chamber 4 and possibly chamber 5. And look at the wear on the core on every one of these. That tells me there's probably pretty good pressure, something in, and if you look at the width of that as well, it'll tell you there's some kind of unique pinning upstairs as well. But for right now, I can tell you for sure chamber 4 is a pin and pin. Let's go ahead and see if I can pull that out of there without shooting any of these pins across the room. And I'm seeing an awful lot of serrations here. Look how pin number 1 has gotten all cockeyed. Let me push him over a little bit because that key does not want to come out. And I don't know why. Push that back and come on out of there. I bet he's undercut. I'll bet he's undercut for sure. All right, let's dump these guys out, see what we got. That doesn't even want to come out of there. What's the deal here? All right, tell you what, let's dump him in reverse order and we'll attack number 1 last because he does not act right. None of these are acting right. Come out of there. All right, so we have a handmade pin. It's got elements of serrations and spools on it. Same with that one, plus he's got a T-pin element to him. This guy is a pin and pin. I wish I could get number 1 to cooperate. He doesn't even want to go back down inside of there now. There we go. All right, I feel better now about dumping. Wow. All right, this fell out. Come on out. Okay, there we go. That's how serrations are supposed to work. I mean, I just get them halfway dumped and those serrations snag. Ooh. All right, now we're ready to work on 1. There we go. It was only serrations. He does have a serrated element and a spool element, a multi-level spool element. Check that out. All right, every single one of these is serrated, threaded very nicely, super sharp. Very nicely done, Dennis. All right, now we can use that slot that we dropped the screws in. All right, we definitely had some weirdness downstairs. Let's see what kind of weirdness we have upstairs. Let me turn this guy correctly. Okay, we have a pin and pin in position 1. He's actually a key pin that Dennis has worked with. I want to say that looked like a pin and pin, but that can't be right. That just must be we'll look at it closely in a minute. That's just a fixed element, like a T-pin. Next one is, a lowly serrated. What's he doing in there in this neighborhood? Next one, it's got a nice little spring action to him. Again, a modified key pin that he's hand-turned into some weirdness. Chamber 4. Doesn't want to come out. Very sharp. We'll look at him a little more closely in a moment. Where are we at here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this should be the last one, right? And there he goes. Serrated. I have another pin back there, guys. I forgot. Here we go. There, that goes there. I got screwed up by the pin and pin element. Because I see one more back there hiding underneath the follower. And I've just let him pop into my follower. That's okay. I'll just hold him down with the tweezers. Wow. And there actually was another chamber that was not used. And we do have some variation in springs, which I would have expected. There's a spring caught up in one of them, obviously, but there you go. All right, let's take a look at these pins. These are absolutely awesome. I'm actually going to change the camera because that way it'll focus better. All right, let's take a closer look at these guys. Chamber 1, we had in the key pin, we had a spool element and a serrated element. Now remember, every single chamber is serrated. So when you see little sharp edges like this little guy was really grabbing. This one has a T-pin element with a spool built and then serrations on top. We have a simple spool here in the key pin, followed with a lowly serrated in the upper chamber. All of these are turned by hand. You can see these used to be key pins. This little guy, we have a double spool with variations in the width. So that would have a T-pin and allow you to get a fault set. Same thing here, T-pin upstairs, chamber width, and then a very narrow. So that would act like a serrated spool. This is a pin in pin. So this little piece here has been hollowed. So that pin fits inside of it to bump against him, which would really get caught in the shear line. Some very sharp edges on that spool element, and then that nice sharp edge where you get caught in the serrations. Another lowly serrated, and then downstairs we had a spool, very fine chamber there, and then a T-pin element on top, so multi-element. And the last one, we had a spool. This little guy, I think, is upside down. And then this little guy, double, T-pin, chamber width, and then a very narrow spool on this guy. Awesome. And I got to say, if I had not raked this, if I'd started single pin picking, I would have taken much, much longer. But by using that rocking action I just showed you, using, one of the Bogotas, a lot of times using very light tension, you can cause even some of the trickiest of security pins to reach the shear line. As soon as you tighten up on the tension, though, that's when you basically screw up, because one of those sharp edges will bite into serrations and it's game over at that point. So keep very light tension, and a lot of times you can rock yourself to a fault set and then figure it out from there when the pins start talking, telling you what they need. Anyway, guys, appreciate your time. Stay safe, stay legal. Den Brass, thank you, sir, for the challenge lock. This will be the final challenge lock, and all of the other things that are going to keep me busy for a while. Thanks, guys.